And welcome back to Politics Tonight. I'm WGN-TV political analyst Paul Listing, visiting now with the Comptroller for the state of Illinois, Judy Baar Topinka, who's over at Trib Tower. Again, thanks for being with me.
Always good, Paul.
All right, let's move on from the stealth tax issue and talk about a couple of other things. Mr. Comptroller, one of the ways we're thinking of trying to resolve things is with casinos, and Lou Lang putting a casinos bill back on the floor. What's your position on casinos and additional gambling to help solve the budget crisis?
Well, the city of Chicago really and truly should have a casino. World-class cities, of which Chicago is one, should have a casino. Most of them do. And as a result, if we're trying to have a convention trade, if we're trying to attract tourists and tourism in general, this is the way to do it. It gives people one more thing to do when they're in town. And, you know, where we're competing with cities like Las Vegas and Orlando and places like that, we need to do everything we can to counteract our cold weather and provide, you know, other things that are attractive. So a city casino could be very helpful. I do believe that 25% of it, though, should go to the state to pay back bills, because right now I've got over 200,000 bills that predate Christmas of last year. And I've got to get those paid. This would be one way to do that. And also it would be the beginning of a real live rainy day fund so that we'd have a fallback position instead of always being a bunch of beggars where we're out there with our tin cup.
All right. There is a fund called the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. It's a prepaid tuition fund. Parents would put money in there and it would pay for their kids' tuition.
Right.
And apparently investment's not going well, not looking. And there was a bill. I was in Springfield last week. There's a bill Republicans are pushing to bring the control of that entity under your office. I was a little confused by that because the Treasurer's office, also run by a Republican now, handles Bright Start and other investments. Why would that come to you?
Well, first of all, we started Bright Start when I was Treasurer. And Bright Start, though, is an all-expense paid type of a college savings fund, whereas ISAC, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, is for prepaid tuition. And of course, they've had some real rough times recently with some allegations of how the investments were very risky and they lost a lot of money and so on. If it's an investment, it rightfully should belong in the Treasurer's office. All right, now it shouldn't belong in our shop.
There is talk, of course, of the Treasurer and the Comptroller's office being merged. I've had Dan Rutherford on this show. He supports it. Where do you stand?
Outstanding idea. Outstanding idea. Every Comptroller and Treasurer that we've had in the last few years have all agreed that it makes good sense to avoid the duplication, to merge those two offices. It would. We've already gotten it through the Senate. It's moved to the House. We really would hope that Speaker Madigan would not find fault with it because there is no downside. We would save $12 million a year and probably make some money on top of it. So it's a good thing for Illinois. It
doesn't need to be with a constitutional amendment?
Yes, it would. It would ultimately, if the legislature passes it, it would go on the ballot in 2012, and then it would go into effect in 2014, where instead of having a treasurer and a controller on the ballot, you would have somebody called the Comptroller of the Treasury.
All right. Well, Republicans are handling the money in the state. It's still a Democratic state, but they've given you and Rutherford the money. Is that making a difference?
I think it does, because both of us, and we have a lot of common ideas. We have served together. We're both very, very fiscally conservative in terms of watching out for risk, watching out to make sure that we're not doing anything that's questionable, trying to cut dollars wherever we can, saving money wherever we can. We're both pretty cheap.
All right.
So I think that's very helpful.
All right. And listen, I got to ask you about Blago. Verdict could be coming down in the next few weeks. Any thoughts on that? You know, he beat you for governor.
Yes, he did. I keep hearing from people that they all voted for me. I should demand a recount, right? Yeah. No, I mean, I hope the jury just does what it's supposed to do. How's that?
All right. That'll work for me.
Yeah.
Also, we have a Facebook question. Steve Dell, who's a recognized pet expert around the country. He wants
wonderful
to know.
Man.
He's asked me to ask you, so I promise I ask my Facebook questions. Your animals, your dogs, Jack and Nora and Bella, how are they doing?
They are doing very well, getting a little bit older. Bella especially, I've taken 5 tumors out of her. She was an old little girl that they found on the streets of Springfield. She probably would have been euthanized if I hadn't taken her home. And she's a good little beagle. My other 2 Scotties come from Scotty Rescue. They are just delightful critters. I mean, they're family.
I'm with you as that, having 2 schnauzers. I'm with you. Judy Baar Topinka, our Comptroller, thanks so much. Please come back and spend a whole show with me.
Sure enough.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us as well this evening. I'm Paul Lisnick.